All right, we want to move on here. Nobody wants to be here too late. You can see Harry afterwards, or he's going to be at Chili's, right? Our second meeting. All right, Richard Tyndall. Where is Richard Tyndall? He didn't. Oh, very good. Richard is going to conduct our first digital awards judging competition. Richard Tyndall.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We're going to try and make this move right along because some people have Chili's to go to, and I understand there's beer waiting. So that's probably a good thing. We're going to look at award winners tonight. So the first question comes up in many of your minds is, why bother? And the answer is, some of this stuff is really good. Actually, of the contestants that go in, out of this club, most of them are really good. So by having a competition, we get to see what our peers are doing and what they might be doing that's better than what we're doing. And tonight we're going to try and look at that in some more detail. We've made a few changes to this competition. As you recall, we had 3 entries rather than 4 from each individual. We did that to cut down the number of ribbons. That seems kind of counterproductive, but it was the will of y'all that they were taking too long because we were using up more than a whole meeting giving out awards. So we've done that. As you know, we have decided to home grow our own judges. So we bring folks in, they're selected based on, well, the fact that they can win awards and have a willingness and seem to be able to communicate and usually play nice with others. And we train them. And our judges at this point have been through at least 2 sessions, sometimes 3 sessions, where we go through what we're looking for and why and how to judge it. And tonight we're going to share that with you. Well, they're going to share that with you, I wouldn't tell. Because we have 3 judges, and the 3 judges come from our club, let me assure you that whereas some of them might recognize the photographs of others, all 3 of them can't. Especially if I'm in there judging, because I have no idea what anybody, I'm sometimes surprised that it's my image that comes up. So that helps, and a little personality adjustment always makes that work better. As we do this, if a judge image comes up, and they recognize that it's their own image, they're supposed to skip judging on it. And if they don't skip judging on it, when it comes through to me, I'll take their score off, because they're not allowed to do that. And what we do for those people is we average the score of the other 2 judges. Okay, so we do that so it's just not one person's opinion, because let me assure you that our judges judge all over the bloody map. Some of them clearly like one kind of image, and others clearly like another kind of image. So if we mix them up enough, we probably have a pretty fair show. Does all that make a reasonable amount of sense?
Yeah.
Good. Our next competition, planes and trains and automobiles, is coming up. Before we do that, I'm going to go through with you what a plane, a train, and an automobile is, so we can try and pull them back into the theme. Because this year, besides cutting down the number of entries, the judges have decided to start being more selective about those images that respond to the theme that we have. So, you know, if it's summertime on the beach, and you give me a glacier, probably isn't going to do so well. And the judges get to do that. If it's really off the wall, I'll usually ask you, but yeah, not always. So that's going to happen, and we're going to try and produce that. And why do we do that? Because some of us are tired of looking at the same images from the same people all the time. And this is a way to help get you out of your comfort zone and try something different. Now, if this doesn't work, I'll do like the other clubs, and I'll make you put things in different categories, like, you know, do one creative, do one black and white, and maybe do one color. God bless you, good luck. But we're not doing that yet. Sandy is one of our judges. Joe, where are you hiding? Joe is one of our judges. Ed is our other judge, but he's going to come up later. Sandy and Joe are going to go through the ribbons and explain that procedure to you. So, good luck, everybody. Not me.
Good evening. We're going to have 3 groups, color, mono, and creative. There will be ribbons given, blue ribbons and yellow ribbons. What we'd like you to do, and we'd like each winner to come up and get their ribbon. However, we'd like you to withhold your applause until we finish with a specific group. Okay? Some people will be asked to stay up because they will get multiple ribbons because they won multiple awards. The first group is going to be color, and the first blue ribbon in the color division goes to Perfect Ending, Joe Fitzpatrick. Joe?
I dropped the ball there. I'm sorry.
You're not going to change your mind, are you?
Yeah. I was glad I didn't make a picture. This year, we've also decided that the best photograph in each section for each competition will be noted as being best in group. And therefore, Joe is our first best in group out of So it's like a first place.
Second is Beach at Cape Romano, Ed Cohen. Third is Boca Grande Pano, Mike Matthews. Okay. Next then would be Jennifer Brinkman, Dancing in the Race. And we're going to ask Jennifer to stay because she's won again for Last Light. The final image in the blue category is Mike Matthews again, Lighthouse on Boca Grande. We move now to the yellow ribbons. First one in the yellow is Krabby by Merrill Lorenzo. Not here. Okay. Second is Krabby Reflection, Sandy Lee Harridan. Following that is Cruise on the Beach, Mom, Nancy Garrison. She's not here. Next one is Just Another Minute, Please, Richard Zelinka. Following one is Mom, I Can Fly, Merrill Lorenzo. This guy I know is here, Jim Robillard, Oregon Sunset. Next is Bob Kennedy, Sunset Ride.
Thank you, Jim.
Next is Sunset Stalking, Kristen Zulu, or Kazulo. And the following image is Until I Shine, Christine Cook. I don't believe she's here. Okay, we're going to go now to the mono category, excuse me. Blue ribbon. First and best of group is Betty Saunders, Inner Sanctum. Next is Cynthia Taft, Windy Waves. We get to see our friend Joe Fitzpatrick again, Boca Grande Light, for the yellow. And we didn't want to leave him out because he would feel bad. Richard Tyndall, Just Fishing.
I just huffed to that off.
Okay. The last one, yellow, in the mono category is Surf's Up Brooklyn, Richard Zelinka. We're coming up to the last group now, creative. The best in group is Surfer Boys, Betty Saunders. Go back. Back. Should be on the circle boards. Okay. First in creative, Surfer Boys, Betty Sanders. Okay. Next is Handful of Memories, Sandy Harridan. Again. The yellows, Beach World, Christine Cook, not here. And the final two, to the same person, Mike Matthews for hanging in there. And the last one, Working Together, also Mike Matthews. Michelle, excuse me. Matthews. She's not here. Okay. If I could read it would help. We now turn over the program to Dr. Ed Cohen.
Unfortunately, I can't stand up here for 20 minutes and do what Richard does without notes and gives you jokes, and it's quite a monologue. The judges, Sandy Harridan, Joe Parisi, and myself, we really enjoyed looking over all of the images. There were many excellent entries, and it was difficult to select the ones that we did out of 93 entries. If you check the website, you'll discover that the usual suspects, so to speak, are there again in the winner's circle. Like Joe, like Robillard, like Fitzpatrick, like Harridan, like Christine Cook. So my suggestion is to look on our website and find out those who win multiple awards, and for those who have not won a ribbon, give them a call. Have them critique your images before you enter them. And I've talked to all of them, and they would like you to contact them. I think that's a good way to get in touch with those who are so good that they're really a professional level. Now, I mentioned the people.
You also have the beginner's workshop.
And yes, I also wanted to mention and give praise to Richard Tyndall and Nancy Garrison for their work establishing the competition standards and rules and for creating this 3-judge panel. You all know that judging is really subjective, almost totally subjective. And so by putting 3 of us together, as Richard already suggested, it kind of eliminates some of that subjectivity. You've got 3 people working it together. Also, Christine Cook in providing the training sessions for those of us who are judging, and also she's a part of our beginner's workshop that Len Macinio and myself teach as well. Okay, now into critiquing. The winners and a few of our non-winners will be mentioned here, and some of the comments the 3 of us compiled for the presentation I'm going to present here today. Now you have to realize that judging sometimes can be really precise and can sometimes hurt people's feelings, and you have to put your ego aside and understand that this is all for teaching. We're all trying to learn something here, and so that's what we should keep in mind. Now, okay, you can see that the silhouette, these piers are part of the subject, and the sun is also part of the subject, and it takes the rays out into the sky and along the beach and into the water and provides some beautiful color. The total image has great depth of field. It's sharp from front to back. All elements have a separation from each other, and the exposure is scintillating, providing multiple color and variety of tones and contrast in the cloud. You can see all the variants of color. The pier does not follow the rule of third, and the brightness of the sun holds your attention longer than it should until very good. As I said, the sun does hold your attention a little longer than it should because it's a little bit bright, but I don't think it hurts this image really a lot because the sun's rays really light up the rest of the image. I personally scored this 19.6 because I'm sure I missed something. Probably the only thing I might suggest is possibly this bit of beach here perhaps could have been cropped out a little bit, and it really doesn't do much for the image, although you do see some ray of light coming down the beach. But I think it's a great image, and I wish I could have done that. Anyway, we move on. Something that Rick Sandin taught us was there are different levels of learning in photography, and I think that Joe Fitzpatrick has gotten to the final stage, which is unconscious competence. And that means that you snapped a picture and it's a winner. You know, you start out with unconscious incompetence, then you get to conscious incompetence, you realize you're no good, then you get to unconscious competence, and then you get, the final is unconscious competence, and that's what Joe has gotten to. Anyway, here's the Sunset Ride by Bob Kennedy. This also has marvelous impact. The texture in the waves is outstanding. You have different colors on the foreground, the midground, the background. You have gold, you've got brown, you've got orange, and then you get even a little blue in the sky. The use of the color from in this image is excellent. The paddler is compelling. He tells a story. It's clear, uncluttered. The subjects fall into the lower converge of the rule of thirds, right in here. There is good separation of subject and background. All of the elements, water, clouds, paddler, make for a cohesive presentation. There's excellent depth of field with all elements, and it's being sharp, and the lines in the waves in a diagonal rather than horizontal or vertical which makes for a better image. It's much more interesting and pleasing in that way, and taking a two-dimensional image and making it look almost three-dimensional. Now, the only thing that I would say, that we would say, we judges, possibly the hot spot up in here is a little bright, and that may have been cropped out altogether or possibly lightened a little bit in Photoshop. But that kind of takes your eye up there away from the beautiful image that is otherwise shown. Personally, I'd like to have enlarged it a little bit so that the paddler maybe actually shows a little more and stands out a little more, but otherwise an excellent image as well. Next. Okay, this is fantastic. Benny Saunders, Inner Sanctum. Monochrome, it creates impact by the virtue of its sharp, contrasting shades and tones. The light is excellent, and it highlights every sharp border of the shell and casts just the right amount of light to give dimension and a 3D effect to this two-dimensional image. The cropping is perfect. You see how the main subject right here is on right here, and it fans out. Allows your eye to be carried from the center out and back again, almost dizzying. The exposure is sharp and the tonal quality is wonderful. I counted about 8 or 9 different shades, which is about maximum for our sensor. There are a couple of non-distracting, there's some hot spots in here, but they're really not distracting. And only negative comment with the shells are found in the beach, and even though there's no beach here, so that's what Richard had mentioned, that maybe a little sand in there would be good. All right, and let's go to the next. Okay, this was fabulous. Next. Oh. Do you remember this being yours? Yes. Okay. All right. Just Fishing by Richard Tyndall. It has very good impact, but nothing more than the alluring subject matter. Certainly emotion and storytelling are present for sure. Interesting patterns in the sand. There's wave action, good balance with wave in the right foreground and mountains in the background. There's good composition and nice contrast changes from the foreground to the background, and the subject falls in the rule of thirds. Now, we had 2 opinions on the old man in the left background. One, he gives the image an additional storytelling dimension, but he may have been cropped out completely to allow the fisher lady to stand out a little more. And we can tell he's an old man because he's not looking at her. Instead, he's bending down to pick up his dentures. He's obviously, although her head is nicely outlined by the lighter mountains here, it is somewhat of a distraction to see her body cut in half by the background, this dark hair. Not much, but still, but her head does stand out. Possibly a lower vantage would have gotten her higher. A few rocks in the foreground are a bit distracting, but really not much. This image is a fabulous image as well. Handful of Memories. Handful of Memories by Sandy Harridan. I probably shouldn't have taken it because she's one of the judges, but this was so good that I couldn't resist. It's extremely fine impact. It's so unusual that it grabs your attention, causes you to linger to digest the entire concept of this fantasy. Certainly evokes motion, tells a story about the action. The wedding band suggests that these are the person's children or grandchildren. The subject is clear and sharp, and every character in the poem is different in dress and angle and has great separation, and are all in convergence in the rule of thirds, both these here and the one on the other side as well. The angle of the hands is ideal. Instead of straight up or across, it's on an angle. Gives it a more three-dimensional look. The fingers add, the detail in the fingers add to the thought-provoking, outstanding work of art. The background has a non-distracting complementary color that allows the subject to stand out. We believe that absence of detail in the wrists also adds to the fantasy rather than the children just being plunked down in the center. And our only comment is, please teach us all how to do this. Fabulous work. Okay, Beach World. Christine Cook's Beach World. This has great impact as well. Fabulous complementary subtle pastel colors and scheme and balance. Clear and sharp subject, and certainly extremely cohesive as the sphere keeps everything in check. Even though it is confined by the environment, it does project depth and dimension. The focus and exposure are technically excellent. Now, although it is artistically satisfying, perhaps a bit more contrast would give it a little more impact. Since it is a symmetrical world, the right side could have been a bit more cropped with the removal of distracting element. There's a little more on this side than that side, and it being it's symmetrical at this point, this little area here seemed a little distracting, so I think it could have been centered, we think. The foreground might have blended more had the water been extended in the front. We think that this water would have been nice if it was all around and rather than this somehow wall, although it's just the sand without any water on it. And a greater separation of the pillars from the background could have surrounded them with water from a higher vantage. But otherwise, another excellent image. Now it's interesting that all three of us selected pretty much the same images because I had high ratings on all of the ones that we selected. So obviously we're all in the same ballpark on this. Okay, now we have a few that didn't quite make the grade and ribbons, and I'll just go over those quickly. This one, Evening in the River, it has very good impact. Wild animals looking at you, always compelling, and gets your juices flowing with a sense of fear and foreboding. The lines are sharp and well exposed, and the eyes are looking at you. They, as a couple, are separated from the background, but their heads are not in a good location. Taking this from another angle, keeping their heads in the rule of thirds intersection would be better. It's really in the center. Not much contrast between the foreground and the background. The river lines do not really take you anywhere. They're just there and don't really add much to the image. It does give you a sense of the environment, though. The rocky hill in the background, although does not add to the image, it has a little texture or dimension and is cut off at an unusual angle. There is a bit too much dead space on the right and could be cropped out. Small pieces of bush in front of the line is also somewhat distracting. Not that you can do much about that. Okay. The stroll. This is interesting elements with the addition of their very famous pillars that we've all seen with some nice texture in the wood. The pillars are set in the side rather than a less interesting center, so that's good. There's a story about the young woman walking on the beach on an overcast day. We wonder why she's alone and where she's going. There's a minimal impact, though, with not much contrast of elements. There's too much dead space above, and there seems to be much noise in the clouds, which does distract from the clouds, which might also be given a bit more texture in the cloud as well. There seems to be a lot of noise in there, too, if you look closely on the computer. The woman has very little space to walk in. You always want to, whether it's an animal or a human, always give them enough space here to walk into. There's cut off kind of, yeah, yours works better. Her head is totally shaded out while her body is nicely exposed. Important for interest in storytelling to attempt the capture of the face and the eyes. As I mentioned in Beach World, a little separation of pillars from sky and or water would be better as well, instead of just ending at the water. Okay, and the last one is Girl at Sunset. Now this reminds me a little of the one that Bob Kennedy had with the color in the background and the sea. It has good impact. Reminds us of the winner of the Sunset Ride by Bob Kennedy. There's good color in the background, clouds, a nice silhouette effect in the girl, good water texture, and some interesting sunlight color in the beach at the foreground. You can see right there. The leading lines are a bit too horizontal. doesn't give you a three-dimensional appearance. We don't know why this was entered into the creative category, which it is, other than the oversaturation in an unnatural blue of the water. Also, the image is underexposed, cutting out much of its appeal. It is extremely important to get any horizon perfectly level. You can see that horizon is not level. It stands out. Now, the girl is too low in the image and to really have her stand out as a subject. So she's really down too low, and there's too much water in here. And if you could have had a lower level and cut a lot of the water out and have her more in a lower convergence of thirds, that would be much better. Further back, lower angle would have been better, and the interesting wave action on the beach may have been included. Right here, there's some interesting lines from the wave action, but they're cut off as well. Anyway, much of the distraction, oversaturated water could have been eliminated as well, that's what I said. Cropping everywhere, but the foreground could be helpful. Too much of everything. Other than that, that's about it, and that's all we have to say. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Please contact those people who are multiple winners, and they'll be glad to help you.
We're gonna need some more. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 16 altogether. 16. 8809. 8809. That's you, Gwen? Very good. Congratulations, Gwen. One of our registrars. Go ahead on up there, Gwen. We don't have anything for beekeeping, but lots of stuff for photography. And the next number. 8777. Close. We'll try again, okay, Rosie? We'll try again. 8784. Very good. Winner in every ticket. Should be 2 left when you take yours. Would you check and make sure? What? Your tags. Oh, thank you, Derek. If you would be so kind to put your strings in your tags when you turn them in, we're not ready to go yet, but it would be greatly appreciated. I'm supposed to do that every meeting, and that's the first time I've remembered, with a little coaxing. 8789. 8789. 8789. Is that 8789? No, okay. There should be, is there 2 left up there, Gwen? 2, okay. And the next to last one is 8892. 8892. Okay. All right, this is the last one, so let's make sure that's the winner before we leave. This is a good number. Boy, this is a really good number. So raise your hand if you won, and then we'll say goodbye. 8800. 88. Very good.
Okay.